You do not frighten the German army. That was the rule. For years, the Wehrmacht marched across continents with a cold, mechanical confidence. Their officers believed they had studied every enemy worth studying. They believed discipline beat chaos, firepower beat courage, and that no colonial troops could ever threaten an elite German position. And high in the rocky hills of Italy in 1944, German commanders repeated that rule with absolute certainty. These small Nepali men, they will break. They always break. They laughed at the stories of curved kukri knives. They dismissed reports of nighttime raids. They mocked the very idea that a handful of men from distant Himalayan villages could threaten an elite German position. For them, the rule was unshakable. But in 1944, one man and one night changed everything.
Rifleman Tul Bahadur Pun is 21 years old, short, wiry, and quiet. Born in the rugged hills of Myagdi, Nepal, a place with no roads, no machines, nothing but mountains that carve strength into every child who grows up there. He joins the Gurkhas not for money, not for glory, but because it is tradition. His father served, his uncle served, and he carries their discipline like a second skin. What sets him apart is something his commanders notice early. Pon never panics, not in live-fire drills, not under artillery, not even when the air turns so thick with dust and smoke that men choke on every breath. He fights with a calm intensity Germans later describe as unnerving. By 1944, the Italian campaign has turned into a brutal, grinding climb.
Hill after hill, ridge after ridge, German paratroopers, Fallschirmjäger, holding every height with machine guns, mortars, and snipers. The Allies need those heights cleared, because every ridge the Germans hold delays the breakout into northern Italy, and every delay costs lives. The 3rd Battalion, 6th Gurkha Rifles, receives orders to storm one of the most heavily defended positions on the ridge above the village of Cassino. A machine gun nest with overlapping fields of fire. Mortars covering every approach. Paratroopers dug in behind layers of rock and steel. British staff warn, losses will be severe. German officers laugh. Let them come. They are small men with big knives. And standing at the base of that ridge, feeling the cold Italian wind cutting across his face, Rifleman Pun knows one thing. Tonight, he climbs anyway.
Midnight. The moon hides behind clouds, the kind of darkness only mountains can make. Thick, silent, absolute. Pun moves first. He grips his Lee Enfield. The kukri rests against his hip. His platoon advances in a long, silent line. 43 men crawling over sharp rock, inch by inch. 200 yards above them, German paratroopers wait behind sandbags. Their MG-42s are already aimed downhill. It's the Ripper, firing at 1,200 rounds per minute. One burst will shred a man. Pun knows this, and he keeps climbing. At 150 yards, a flare bursts overhead. Brilliant white light. Shadows thrown across the slope. A German voice shouts. A machine gun opens. The first burst rips into the rocks 2 feet from Pun's head. Chips of stone cut his cheek. He doesn't stop. He signals left. His team fans outward. Rounds skip off the hillside with a sound like tearing cloth. One man drops, then another. Pun looks up the ridge. He can see the outline of the main German position, just 50 yards higher, but the approach is wide open. Climbing that slope feels impossible. He orders his section to hold.
He goes alone. At 20 yards, he breaks into a full sprint
every muscle screaming, boots slipping on gravel. MG-42 fire lashes the ground behind him. 15 yards. 10. 8. He leaps behind a boulder just as another burst demolishes the rock surface. He can hear the Germans laughing between bursts. He checks his magazine. 5 rounds left. He rises, fires once, then twice. The first shot hits the gunner. The second takes the loader. The MG-42 falls silent. Pun doesn't wait. He charges the nest. Grenade pen pulled. 1 heartbeat. 2. Throw. The explosion tears through the sandbags. Pun dives inside the shattered position, kukri drawn. A German paratrooper lunges with a trench knife. Pun moves faster. 2 strikes, clean, practiced, drop the man instantly. But he is alone, and the ridge is still full of machine guns. He turns. He sees that his platoon is pinned at the base. No one can get through. If he doesn't break the next nest, the entire assault dies here. He sprints across 20 yards of exposed ground. Bullets snap overhead. Mortars boom behind him. He feels the heat of one explosion on the back of his neck. He slides behind another outcrop just as a second MG-42 opens fire. Countdown. 40 yards. 30. 25. He waits for the gun to pause for a reload. A burst. A second burst. A third. Silence. He rises. He runs. 20 yards. 15. 10. The German loader sees him too late. Pun fires all 5 remaining rounds, each one deliberate, controlled, impossible under pressure. The gun team collapses. And with that, the entire ridge suddenly opens.
His platoon seizes the gap. Gurkhas pour up the slope, shouting their war cry, Io Gurkhali. The Gurkhas are here. The call echoes across the mountains and sends a shockwave through German positions. For the first time, the paratroopers realize this is not a small enemy. This is not a colonial unit. This is a force that will not stop. And as they recoil, as their machine guns fall silent one by one, they abandon the positions they once mocked as invincible. If you find this kind of forgotten history as fascinating as we do, we'd be honored if you'd hit that subscribe button. We believe these stories of courage deserve to be told, and by subscribing, you help ensure they're never forgotten.
What the Germans didn't know that night was that the fall of that single ridge would trigger a collapse along their entire defensive line. With their machine gun nest destroyed, the paratroopers were forced to retreat nearly half a mile. Their mortar teams lost coordination. Their supply routes became exposed. Their snipers had to abandon their vantage points. British and Indian divisions exploited the breach within hours. Strategically, it cracked open the German defensive grid south of Cassino, a network the Wehrmacht believed could hold for months. But now, entire companies were falling back without orders. German commanders demanded to know what had happened. Reports came in describing silent attackers, knife fighters, and Nepali soldiers who came out of darkness. The mocking tone was gone. In its place, fear, confusion, and disbelief. That ridge, just one patch of broken stone, accelerated the Allied advance northward. It opened the path that eventually forced German forces out of central Italy entirely. And the core of that breakthrough was the moment one Gurkha rifleman refused to break.
Tul Bahadur Pun lived to see the end of the war. He returned to Nepal a decorated hero, eventually earning the Victoria Cross, the highest award for valor. It was given not to a commander, not to a general, but to a soft-spoken young man from the mountains who charged alone into machine gun fire because his brothers were pinned below. He lived to the age of 88, the last survivor of his assault group. To this day, British officers speak of the night Gurkhas shattered a German stronghold with a mix of awe and reverence. And to this day, the kukri remains a symbol not of brutality, but of discipline, loyalty, and a soldier who never runs. Why does this story matter now?
Because every generation needs reminders that courage does not come from size or rank or power. Courage comes from men like Rifleman Poon, ordinary in appearance, extraordinary in action, who rise when they are needed most. If this story moved you, please hit that like button. Every click tells the algorithm this piece of history is worth remembering. We're dedicated to rescuing forgotten stories from the archives. If you want to join us, please subscribe and turn on notifications. Where are you watching from? Drop a comment with your city or state and tell us if someone in your family served. Thank you for ensuring that Rifleman Tul Bahadur Poon and the 43 men of the 3rd Battalion 6th Gurkha Rifles do not disappear into silence. They deserve to be remembered.